My brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. A good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. A hired man who is not a shepherd and whose sheep are not his own sees a wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away, and the wolf catches and scatters them. This is because he works for pay and has no concern for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I will lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. There also I must lead, and they will hear my voice, and they will come and be one flock, one shepherd. This is why the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own. I have the power to lay it down and the power to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. The Gospel of the Lord.
Peace and goodness to you, my friends. Thank you. Thank you, Joey. Oh, to have such youth and such strength. There are wheels on this. And he's not showing off. It's because they're very noisy. As some of you know, I was a full-time pastor in a few different places, a few different cities, before I returned to Buffalo in 2002. I was pastor for the first time after teaching for 6 years in our seminary and college. And, well, first let me define this word pastor, because it's important. The word pastor comes from shepherd, hence, because of the gospel, shepherd. Pastor means shepherd, shepherding his flock. And I thought I was doing a fairly good first-time job in this parish, but I was greatly humbled by an event that quickly said, don't flatter yourself, Francis, you're not that great. It was an evening when some friends of mine went to a small restaurant in the area. And you should know that this area was indeed small. It was a small town in New England, and everybody knew everybody else, largely because there was one high school and one middle school, a couple of elementary schools, our parish school, but one high school. So consequently, everyone knew everyone else, and they would call them by their high school nicknames, like Crazy Joe or Lefty Louie, that you still hear them calling one another when they're 70 or 80 years old. Well, we went to this small restaurant. We were sitting in a booth, and behind us, there was a man who had obviously too much to drink. He was very loud and vulgar and abrasive, and at times downright abusive. The waitress, who knew me, because, as I said, everyone knew everyone else, she went to the man sitting there. She said, "Shh. Don't you realize that Father Francis is sitting in the very next booth behind you?" Well, she shouldn't have done me any favors. Because with that, the man got up, draped himself across the booth, and said, "Father Francis, I'm so happy to see you. I've been to your talks, that's what he called what I'm doing now, so many times, and I want to tell you, they made a good impression on me. They changed my life. Really? Apparently, you didn't understand your native tongue when I was preaching, or you weren't listening. But there's another story that I wanted to share with you about a shepherd who did make a difference in someone's life, a big difference. The story begins with Ted Wojciechowski, who immigrated from Chicago after World War II. He worked as an engineer and raised a family. But as a young man, he was witness to a great Good Shepherd hero of the 20th century. So we pick up the story about this Good Shepherd in 1939. In September of the year, the tanks went into Poland. The first village attacked by the Nazis was Wojciechowski's home. Ted was about 20 years old. And he went underground. He manned the shortwave radio to gather war news from London and secretly printed leaflets to let villages know what was happening. Things gradually became too risky for him, and he had to leave, and he hopped on his father's bicycle, biked to Hungary, then to France, where he hoped to join the Polish army. But he was caught at the border. He was jailed, and then in May 1940, was sent to the dreaded Auschwitz concentration camp. Auschwitz was not the killing ground yet for the Jews, but a place where criminals, enemies, and critics of the Nazi regime were sent. Many priests were there. Wojciechowski lived in a two-story barrack in the camp with 800 prisoners, and he was sent out daily to build more barracks. The Nazis treated the prisoners cruelly, saving special hatred and punishment for the priests. And it should be noted that this Holocaust, this genocide, which was horrible for humanity to suffer through, that yes, 7 million Jews were annihilated, but also 6 to 7 million Christians and priests were annihilated as well. And whenever a prisoner escaped, all the others had to stand in the sun with their hands on their heads. After a second escape, 10 prisoners were machine gunned in retaliation. And there was a third escape around July of 1941. The punishment for this third infringement was that 100 soldiers from Wojciechowski's barracks were forced to stand in rows of 10. 10 of them were sentenced to die. Wojciechowski stood in the 10th row. The camp commander ordered each row, one after another, to step forward, and he would randomly select 1, 2, 3, single them out for punishment. Wojciechowski's hope was that 10 would already be singled out by the commander before it reached him. After the 5th and 6th man were picked, the final man broke down sobbing. My wife and my children, who will take care of them? Suddenly, a prisoner from the 6th row spoke up. He turned to the commander and said, "I will take the place of the man with the wife and the children." There was an audible gasp. The commander, however, was not impressed. "You must be one of those vermin priests," he snarled. But he accepted him as one of the 10. All 10, this volunteer and the 9 others, were locked in a bunker to starve to death. The Nazis were not going to waste any bullets on them. That man, that volunteer, was indeed a priest. But he wasn't just any priest to me. He was a member of my order, the Conventual Franciscans. His name was, and still is, Maximilian Kolbe. The prisoner he rescued was Franciszek Garniczek, a man I came to meet quite a few times when I was a teacher at our college and seminary. And I heard Franciszek himself verify the incident, recalling in greater detail than I have just now, of how he was saved by someone we now know as Saint Maximilian Kolbe, martyr of charity. According to an eyewitness, an assistant janitor of the time, Ted Wojciechowski, we think, to those prison cells, Kolbe would lead the doomed prisoners in hymns and prayers to Our Lady. After 3 weeks of dehydration and starvation, only Kolbe remained alive. Now, the guards were very interested in having that bunker emptied, so they gave Kolbe a lethal injection of carbolic acid. And Kolbe is said to have said Ave Maria as he raised his left hand to receive the carbolic acid injection. His remains were cremated on August the 15th, the feast of the Assumption of Mary. The church celebrates Kolbe's feast day on August the 14th. Who was Kolbe? Why was he arrested? Well, briefly, St. Maximilian entered the Conventual Franciscans with his brother Francis in 1907. After his ordination to the priesthood in 1918, he illustrated great leadership and innovations in establishing friaries in Japan, in India, and Poland, which still exist. In Poland, the largest in the church was a friary containing over 700 friars. He published religious magazines and newspapers, read by more than 1 million people at the time. He was intensely devoted to our Blessed Mother, placing his large friary under her protection as the city of the Immaculate in Nepomuceno near Warsaw. He became a major religious publisher. Naturally, the Nazis did not like this, and they treated Kolbe with suspicion and mistrust after they invaded Poland. When he resisted their pressure in applying for German citizenship, for which he was eligible, he was arrested February 17th, 1941. The man Kolbe saved, Franciszek Garniczek, was a poor peasant farmer. Kolbe, on the other hand, was a renowned, educated man of 47, one of the most well-known and accomplished men in Poland. And he exchanged his life for another. So on this Good Shepherd Sunday, we offer you the story of one who not so long ago demonstrates to us, even till today, the meaning of Good Shepherd. It's a heroic story. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. It is so encouraging and so inspiring that it needs to be repeated often to us, this model of shepherd, because it's good for us to be reminded, especially at this time when there has been so much publication about bad shepherds. It's good for us to be reminded that there are good shepherds, lots of them in the church. Priests that you have known, that you will come to know, who have baptized, married, anointed family members, who guided and encouraged you and me on our journey to the Lord. They are legion. And St. Maximilian Kolbe is for one of us, all of us, especially me, a shining example of them all. Good Shepherd Sunday is a good time for us to pray for the good shepherds among us. And yes, we should also pray for the bad ones. It is a good time to realize that in this messy family of ours that we call the church, that the Good Shepherd walks among us still. May the Lord grant you peace in ways that the world cannot.